Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Hangar Control. And today I'm going to be announcing a feature that is about to be released for Hangar Control that everybody can take advantage of, and I think everybody's going to find some use for. So stick around.
One app designed to do it all. Hangar Control brings everything together. Control bindings, hardware configuration, mod and profile management, application launching, add-ons, config files, and more, all managed from a single application. Mods Hangar goes beyond just mods and add-ons. It manages profiles, config files, text files, backups, snapshots, and helps keep your community folders clean and organized. Application Hangar launches your entire SIM stack with a single click. Your Stream Decks are fully controlled through the Hangar Control plugin, while all of your other Stream Deck plugins remain active and available. Built by a simmer for simmers, Hangar Control adds new features and hardware support every week based on community feedback. It's a one-time purchase with lifetime updates, no subscriptions. You can try it for free for 5 days with no restrictions at overkillsimulations.com. Just create an account, head to your account page, download the latest version, and get started. And if you're looking for in-depth Microsoft Flight Simulator aircraft tutorials, check out my Patreon site. Links to Hangar Control and Patreon are down in the description below.
All right, folks, I'm going to do my best to keep this next part short and sweet, but please, I do recommend that you do not skip it. First, a bit of a technical tip, make this real fast. For those who might have skipped the intro, if you are interested in either the 5-day trial or purchasing Hangar Control outright, you do need to go to the website overkillsimulations.com and you must create your account first. If you do not create the account first, whether you are trying to simply download to start the free trial or if you are trying to purchase, you will run into an error. You must create the account first and be logged into the site. Next, the big announcement today is we are releasing a new feature this weekend. It will be released as of version 1.21. Notice this says 2.0. It is 2.1 that this feature will now be available. So it is not out yet. My goal is within the next 24 hours of the time of release of this video, which is the, what are we at? The 28th of March, 2026. So my goal is before end of day 29 of March. It is, but is not limited to by any means. It is a touch panel control deck, but we can do far more than that. I want to make this very clear that at the end of this video, there will be a section called the touch panel roadmap. And that is where you will hear everything that is yet to come and that the architecture is already there for it. A touch panel is desirable for this particular feature as that is what is based around, but a touch panel is not required in order to take advantage of many of the features that will be included with this particular operation. So keep that in mind. Anything that you see done with a touch panel can be done with a mouse. And it will be a browser-based operation, meaning that anything that is connected to your Wi-Fi that has browser capability can be used with Hangar Control and using any of these functions you're about to see in this video. The final piece that I want you all to be aware of is one of the things this software feature can do is custom gauges, which leads probably immediately some wondering about Air Manager. I have nothing but the highest respect for other third-party developers, whether it be SPAD.next, Air Manager, and whomever. And I will never do anything with my software that makes me feel like I am capitalizing on the work of somebody else, whether it be direct or even third-party developers that have made things for Air Manager in this case. So to answer the question right out of the gate, no, Air Manager panels are not compatible directly with Hangar Control. Can they be edited to do so? Sure, but that is up to the developers of those gauges. I will not be working those efforts. I have made a handful of my own custom gauges already, and at the time of release, there will be a guide in here when you click the documentation on how to create gauges for Hangar Control that will have all the specific requirements to make them work. Like I said, I am sure the Air Manager gauges are very similar, but they are not tested directly. I do not think they will work directly out of the box with Hangar Control, and I will not be implementing that. Same reason why I would not implement taking profiles from SPAD.next that some people had asked and making them compatible with Hangar Control. Again, that's capitalizing on somebody else's work, and I will not do that. Okay, that's all the boring stuff out of the way, so let's get into this. This is where it's fun. I am super excited to share this with you guys. This has been a lot of hard work. We've been at this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I am so excited to finally share this with you all. Let's get started. All right, so the first step here, as you can see today, we are working with Microsoft Flight Simulator. And make sure that you guys check out the roadmap at the end of this video so you guys can see what else is coming. All right, now things that will already be supported. You should have DCS control and, of course, keyboard commands. But with the keyboard commands, that gets a bit trickier, and we'll talk more about that when it comes to it. But right up here, we now have a button that says Touch Panel. You still want to make sure you have the right profile on the hangar. You still want to make sure that you have a selected profile for your aircraft, and you still want to make sure the service has been started. And now let's get into the magic and open the touch panel. So here is our touch panel config view. Let's go ahead and expand this for a bit for now. Don't worry about the lagging that you guys are seeing. That's because it's on top of Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have no idea why it does that, but it does. So I'm just going to walk you guys through the flow, and then as we hit certain information points, you guys will see how this works. So the first thing that you want to do, in my opinion, you do not have to, by the way, you can leave the panels independent like this, but I do recommend creating a new group. So we're going to go to Cessna 172, and we're also going to call this analog. And we're going to leave that just like this, and we're going to take our panel here that's there by default, and let's drag it up into the group for the Cessna 172, okay? All right, so then we'll come back to our panel, and let's start working on this. We're just going to call this instrument demo for now. Hit tab. These first two, you set the canvas resolution, so basically set the size of your work table. All right, and here we can set the port. I do recommend leaving it at default unless there's a conflict, because with each new panel, this port will increment. Okay, and we'll talk about that more later. That's going to be important, especially for the Wi-Fi section of this. You can set your background color of your canvas. You don't really need to for what we're doing here, though. Margins, rows, and columns. That's if you want the grid. You can change these up, and it will adjust your grid down below. Header and footer, don't worry about those. I'm actually probably going to remove those from this particular window. Snap, we'll talk about that in a minute, but basically that allows you to snap a widget to the grid. And this one is critical here, especially if you are using the local browser. This is where we do have to talk for a second about the difference between local and Wi-Fi for those who may not know, and what the problem is with a local browser. When this is a browser-based application, which you guys are going to see in a minute, it opens a browser regardless, whether you're on a mobile device, a third-party device, your laptop, away from your computer, your cell phone, it does not matter. It uses a browser. On local to your PC, to the same machine that your simulator is on, the browser can be a pain in the butt if you don't do this step. What would happen if you don't do this step is you'll click your button, your whatever you've created in here, you'll click on it on your touch screen or on your browser. It will take focus away from the simulator. So let me just show you guys real quick what I'm referring to. So we're going to come back to that in just a minute. So let's create our first button, get right into it. By the way, real quick, here's your local host information. Here's your Wi-Fi information. It will automatically populate. And for anyone who's like, worried you shouldn't show your IP address, this is called a local IP address, folks. There are probably 1 million plus computers on this planet that have this exact same IP address that are out there. What you guys need to be worried about, if you're ever a little tech knowledge here for you, you need to be worrying about sharing your public IP address. This is a local IP address. I would never share my public IP address. That would be unwise. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go right click anywhere at any point. You can right click to bring up the configurator. Real quick before we get there, if you also want to change the background, you can click here and then you can select a different color for your canvas too, if that's something that you would like to do. And this is just for the canvas. It does not determine whether or not the background on your browser will show. You can also hide the layer if you want by simply clicking that, and it removes everything, and you can change the opacity up here. So let's go ahead and add a button. So here's our button. We're going to drag this up here, and if we want it to snap, we're just going to engage the snap. Boom, there it goes. You can then click in here and resize it. Okay. Now, if you want, you can right click and you can either fit to canvas, dear mercy. That'd be a lot for one button, but hey. You can size to the grid cell. You can also use different variants of sizing to grid cells. Okay, so it really just depends on what you are going for. For our case, we'll just size to grid cell today. So then once you have your button created, what I wanted to show you guys on the browser real quick is if we open in browser, this is what you get. Sorry, that was on a different screen. But if I click it, nothing happens. And I'm going to show you one more thing. Let's go ahead and configure this button. Okay. We just double click to open the configurator, or you can right click and select edit widget. But let's do something real quick here, something real simple. We're going to go to icon, and right now we are using the same icons that exist in the Stream Deck. So there is a resolution concern there. I am working on an entirely new built library for both, so just bear with me. There is also a way to do your custom. If you want custom icons, you simply click separate on-off images, and you can browse and import your own on and off state icons and bring them in like that if you wish as well. Okay, but for today, I'm just going to use one of our default. Let's actually use a generic one. And let's do vertical rocker. Sure, let's use the amber. Just make things special. So there it is. You can see we have that pop up. Let's give, and like I said, that looks like absolute garbage. And by the way, these changes are live. So whatever change you make here will immediately happen on the website, or on the web page. So you can watch it on your mobile device. You can see how it's going to look on your panels immediately. As you make changes here, the change is also happening here. Okay. So like, for example, let me save this real quick, and I should be able to show that to you guys actually. So if we do this, bring this over here so you guys can see that. Let's come back in here. For example, if we change the label to battery, you can see the actions are live. You have your color wheel. Okay. You have your main font size. Okay, and like I said, the icon, I know. The icon looks like crap. I get it. It was designed for a Stream Deck, okay? I'm already embarrassed. Anyway, let's keep moving down. You also have a secondary label if you want to use that. Okay? And again, same thing, font size. For either one, you have the ability to adjust the positions all the way across the button, wherever you want. You have slight bumps if you wish to make just minor adjustments. Let's go ahead and take that out. We don't need that for now. And finally, let's bind it. All of these should be functioning. However, I would say for touch panels, I highly recommend you pretty much stick to short. I put these in here just in case, but for 99.99% of all situations, the short action should work fine. What you do have access to still, though, is sequence, step, and toggle. The toggle is primarily going to be for DCS commands. Okay? Anyway, so let's continue on. We're going to do action type now, a sim connect event. Let's go to browse. You guys all know the picker if you've been using Hangar Control for a while. Oops. This guy doesn't know how to type. Toggle master battery. Again, with a touch screen, you're pretty much always going to be toggling something, right? Because there's no physical actual activity there. All right. And then we do have the state, enable state monitoring, all that. That will change the icon state, but it's so ugly right now. Anyway, it's embarrassing, but it will change the icon state. Maybe we'll test that here with like the nav lights or something. But anyway, so now we have a functional button. So let's do this. Let's go into the sim. And I want to show you guys what happens here. So without any kind of focus set, if I hit battery, notice that the web page stays on top. What has happened here is that the sim has actually lost focus. Windows is now focused on the browser. So any other like keyboard commands or things that you may have may not make it to your simulator. Now, Microsoft Flight Simulator is really good about this. For the most part, you can still use your axis, you can still use your yokes, your throttles, even if you are clicked in another window other than the sim. However, if you're using any kind of keyboard commands and this is focused, it will no longer work inside your sim. DCS World is absolutely hates that. But again, we're using a plugin with Hangar Control. For the most part, we've solved that problem. So let me show you what the focus does. We come in here, we go refocus. We're going to select Flight Simulator 2024. We're going to save that, okay? Because I want this panel to always come back to the focus of 2024. And so now, when we come back into the sim, bring our panel back up. And by the way, I want to stress, this only happens if your touch screen or the browser window you're working on is attached to the same computer as your simulator. If you're using a tablet, a mobile device, a laptop, a secondary screen, whatever it may be, that's not attached to your computer, you do not need to worry about this part. But now when we hit battery, watch what happens. The sim is automatically brought back to the front. So click it. Okay, and that's what the refocus does. Okay, it keeps what should be focused, right? We don't want Hangar Control getting all that attention. It gets really snooty. Okay, so there's that, which leads us into the next piece. Let me go ahead and show you guys quickly how to do a sequence. Sequence and step both work. They've been tested to hell, and the process is the same. It's just a matter of which one you pick. So we're just going to do a sequence real quick to make this quick. You have two options. You can either A, just right-click again, add a button, or you can right-click on the button you've created, hit duplicate, move it to where you want, and then edit. Okay, that way you don't have to worry about the sizing and all that jazz. All the font, everything stays the same. So, like, we'll just change battery. Where the hell is it? Oh, wow. What's wrong with me? We'll call this sequence. Let's mix things up here, right? There we go. Just to make it look different. And that's it. That's all we're going to worry about that. Okay, we'll keep the same icon. And now we're going to change this over to a sequence. We're going to add step. We're going to edit. Just like before, a Sim Connect event. And let's do our lights. So we're going to start with the beacon. Toggle beacon lights. If you want a pause for right now, you need to add multiple lines. I will be adding the edit to this, and it will probably be done before you guys actually have this in your hands. It's just at the time of this video, I have not put in the edit section for this particular window yet. It's there, it's just not attached yet. So I'm not going to worry about any pauses. Plus, it's kind of cool. This thing works really well through the touch panel. We're going to add step again. And let's just go through this. We're going to add two more lights, right? So there's our beacon night lights. Let's do the nav lights toggle. Where are you? Toggle nav lights, save, and let's do last one, add step, edit, and go into taxi lights. Okay, cool. All right, and that's really all we need for this. Now let's go ahead and hit save again. And then when we come back here, like I said, it brings everything up. So let's click into our sim and rock and roll. Look how fast it moves. Just boom, boom, boom. Flawless every single time. Never fails. All right, so I'm going to show you one more thing. I promised I would show you guys the variables working. So let's go ahead and show you the state saving and how that works still. Okay, I told you guys that I was going to show you guys how to do a state monitoring button real quick. So I do want to show you guys that real fast. If we go into our config view, you can see I duplicated another button. Double click to open it. Button icon label, that doesn't matter. What we're interested in is way down here at the bottom. We are using our taxi lights as the example. We want to enable the state monitoring. Choose a sim variable in our case. You can literally browse in here and you'll type taxi up here, and we're looking for a taxi light. It tells you what the unit to monitor is right here. So you go bool. We don't need anything with a decimal. Insert token. So we want to make sure this says bool. You'll have to type that. And anything over 0 would indicate an on position. So we're going to hit save there. Show you guys both segments. If we manually flip it on, you can see it has changed, as well as if we click our button, it turns itself back off, back on, right? So cool stuff. All right, and then of course you can also do displays like your fuel quantity, current heading, all that stuff that you could do on the Stream Deck. It's all still here as well. All right, so now let's get into something a bit more fun. Like this hasn't already been fun enough. We are going to get into gauges, overlays, and custom, basically notepads. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's get after it. All right, guys, so for this next part, we're going to go ahead and move over to the tablet and take a look at the browser functionality. Now, this is about as ghetto as I can be. Unfortunately, my normal camera mount broke. So you guys have the iPhone, which is the camera, and the iPad, which is our source. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to open up our... we don't want that to happen yet. There we go. We're going to open up our browser. And remember I told you guys that up here is your Wi-Fi password, Wi-Fi address and port. So that is what we're going to be looking for. You can see I've made a mistake before. So 192 and the Hangar Control panel. You can see that I've been here before. Again, with each new panel, you can see the port number increments. So we want the first one first here. So open that up. There you go. Everything that we saw before. We can flip that on. It even still takes activity there. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring Hangar Control back into this, because we're going to kind of need it for right now. All right, and then so for the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to do my best to sort of speed this up a little bit now at this point. So let's move on to our next panel, which is our gauges. Now the gauges, it works the same way. I'm going to show you guys real quick. You would add gauge, okay? And then from the add gauge option, from here, you can import your own custom gauge. Remember, there is going to be documentation on how to do this. Okay, you can also change it to images and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to hit cancel here just for the sake. Then what we did is we created another layer, so I can toggle that layer off and you can see what I've done here. Here's the gauges, and by the way, my gauges will be shipping with the product. Currently we have 5 of them. We have, as you can see, the HSI. We have the airspeed indicator with outside air temperature and true airspeed, although something happened right there with my true airspeed. I'll fix that. And we have our, obviously, RPM, or manifold pressure. Okay, and with a working Hobbs meter, by the way. The Hobbs meter is not state saving, by the way. It just runs. And then we also have vertical speed and a functioning altimeter with barometric pressure. That's what we have currently. My goal is to expand that. So the 6-pack, what we did is we added a layer, which is right up here. Okay, then we can come in here, and when we click on layer 2, notice that I can't move the gauges. I can only move the 6-pack. And don't make fun of my terrible overlay. Okay, this was just something I threw together here. Okay, but if I click back to 1, we can then move anything that's on 1 around, and you can even grab behind it if you wanted to. Another neat tool here that you can do is you can change the opacity of layer 2, which would help you then adjust your icons from layer 1, or your gauges, or your buttons, or whatever it may be, right? So, and again, I'm not trying to do this all perfect tonight. I'm just trying to give you guys a working example here of feature and function. Okay, so then we could kick these back up. And now, you guys see already what we had for layer 1, okay, or panel 1. So moving to panel 2 is 1.61. Now let me show you something else that you can do with this real quick. This works at least on an iPad. I know Android has something similar, but I can't remember what the process is. But if we go to share on an iPad, and then we go to add to home screen, and you can name it touch panel, you can title it whatever you want. We're going to call this touch panel 1 and hit done. You now get it here, right? So now when we tap, remember address bar, tab, typical browser crap. Now you get this. Much better, much cleaner. I mean, you could put a bezel or something up top. There are things that we can do to address the top, and I'm also trying to come up with something custom too for that. So that's step 1. And then what we can do is come back here. So notice that we have I know that's hard to see, but up here you have the address bar, and with 1.6 or 60, we're going to change that to 61. Go. There's our gauges. We're going to do the same thing. Oh, wrong button. There we go. Really weird being upside down on this thing. Change this to add a 2. Hit done. There's that. And then you can also do like this. Oh, and you could swap between the two. Okay, and there's other options that I'm going to have here. And then finally, I have created a third panel, which is what I want to show you guys here in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute. So for right now, let's just focus on these two. And let me show you guys the gauges. This is really weird reaching over this thing like this. That's why I'm looking so silly. Okay, so now we have this. I'm going to hit save. I'm actually going to close that. Just move it out of the way for a minute. Let's move the heading bug. You guys can see the heading bug moving nice and smooth. It's moving right with the aircraft. Course needle. Moving right with the aircraft. Now keep in mind, you guys might be seeing a little delay here. I am seeing a little shock on OBS. Keep in mind what this path is. It's going from the PC. Okay, it's going from the PC to the tablet, to the cell phone, then from the cell phone back to the PC into OBS. So if there's a little lag and delay, bear with me. Okay? That's quite a hop. All right, but let's go ahead and give you guys something real here. Now, I have noticed with the RPM, there is some fluctuation. There are times where it is super smooth, and there are times where it sort of jumps a little bit. We are working to tweak that a little bit more to get even better performance out of it. It also, I will tell you that right now Hangar Control is running in a very, very detailed debug mode, which can cause some of this as well. Okay, but you guys can see for the idea of demonstrating functionality, it is working. Now with the gauge, that's something I want to show you guys. These are not tied in yet, but I want to show you what's here. Let me bring the touch panel back up. If I do a let's open these in the browser actually. Oops, that was the wrong one. I'm sorry. No, it's not time for you guys to see that yet. So we're going to open this up here. Let's bring this down. And let's hide that layer. Okay, now I want to come back over here. And you can see they're kind of skewed. They're not even in good circles right now. But I do want you guys to see this. They are not going to do anything right now. Okay, because they are wired into the sim and they are not wired into the gauge right now. But I wanted you guys to see these move, like this one. I have it working. The heading bug I don't yet, but it's coming. And then once I have them both functioning, they will actually work to the sim. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to be adding something for encoders that you will be able to bind any encoder in your hardware library right now to one of these encoders. And this is for any gauge, any device that would have an encoder, your G1000s if we make it that far, radio, transponder, whatever it may be. You'll be able to click on an encoder, right click and hit bind, and then it will bring up your hardware list and you can pick any encoder that you want that would adjust that particular device, okay? And then something similar to like what we did, what Air Manager did, where you'll be able to tap it if you want, and you can see like this one I've got working. This one, again, it's not working, but the principle will be the same. Like, what I'm trying to show you is the needle itself. The encoder is spinning. I know it's kind of hard with my fat finger in the way, but that's all working. And then the same thing here. If you guys can see the true airspeed working there. Okay, and I don't remember if I got that wired up or not. I don't think I did. Not yet. No, I do not have that wired up yet. So the outside air temperature will get wired up. So we're going to have fully functional panels. Like I said, right now we have 5 full gauges. So it's going to be super exciting. I'm really I'm really excited about how all of this is coming together. It's really coming together, very powerful, very nice. We're going to have these panels that are going to be available. We're going to have switch panels. We're going to do overheads. There's a lot of graphics. I already have a friend of mine who's super excited about this, and he's already starting to develop some gauges and panels and things. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of effort in a lot of different arenas. You know, he's working actually on a Peterbilt gauge for American Truck Simulator. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff heading this way, and I think you guys are going to really like this. So let me show you the next piece. This is showcase only. I'm not going to show you the setup of this part, but I'm going to show you what we do have. So when we come in here, real quick, we're on our layer 3. Don't worry, I'm going to bring it up on the iPad here in a minute, but I want to show you just the gist. You can see we've added an image this time. This is a whole new panel. You can see we're running on 6.2 now as our address. We added an image. I just downloaded a chart. I think I took a screenshot of this actually from the old interwebs. And then what we did is we added a draw. I clicked this draw button and you can see it added a draw overlay on top. So first was the default layer, added the image, then clicked draw. That added the draw overlay. Let me show you what it does. So now we're going to come in here once again. We're going to go back to our browser version. We're now going to change this to 6.2. Go. Do just like we did before. Share it. What am I doing? Add to home screen. And this is 3. Right? Yeah. Done. Alright. And that should be that one right there. Perfect. So now let me show you what we can do here. Okay. This part's really cool. Look what that just did. So let's clear that. Let's add some color here. Let's say you're up at parking and you want to draw your taxi route. And let's say you got clearance to come down here. You're going to come in here and hold short. Okay, let's say you want to write some notes over here, blah, blah, blah. Let's say you want to design your own template, your own image that is a checklist, or your ATC clearance acronyms, or you just want to have a notepad that you can draw your ATS. You know, you want to put on your your barometric pressure, maybe your squawk code, maybe your altimeter clearance, right? Or altitude clearance, altimeter clearance, geez. So you can do anything you want with this. And the cool thing about the way we did the image here is my recommendation, easiest way to do this, honest to God, is if you take any image you want, any document you want, any PDF you want, any chart you want, any checklist, whatever, and use something like GreenShot. You can get GreenShot from greenshot.org. It is what I use for my screenshots, and it creates every screenshot as a PNG. And then you can just literally grab whatever you want. Like this is a PNG. This was taken as a screenshot from a web page. And then you can take it, load it somewhere where you want to access these things, right? And you just simply grab it, create your pages, whatever you want to do, however you want to do this. And you can see up here, we do have page navigation. It's coming. Okay, there's a left and right arrow for those who, if I don't know how well this is coming across on the screen right now, it doesn't look like very well, but you will have the ability to cycle pages back and forth, right? So there's still a lot more coming to this. Now I don't know if that function is going to be there tomorrow, if I make the release on time like I want to, but these are all things that are heading that direction. So a real quick touch on what is coming next. Okay, so to what is coming next, just like we talked before, we are going to have multiple pages. We're going to have new page navigation options, button page navigation options, where your buttons will actually be able to change the pages, where you'll be able to save your modes like this, your writings, checklists, swapping of different categories. I want to add like a toolbar here for like if people who want to make like their own document of different images that they want to be able to write on. You can simply, you'd be able to click over here and it will swap and change the page that you want. DCS World, one of the big questions that came up was, can this replace Helios? Can Hangar Control do that with like the DCS export manager? Now, and I want to make sure, I actually really hate that word, replace Helios. Helios is fantastic. And given how long it's been around, it's really an amazing piece of software. So I'm gonna rephrase that. Can it be an alternative to Helios? Yes. We have proven that now. Yes, it is capable of doing that. Especially with the touchscreen capability now. And then, so those are all things that are coming down the line. I mean, technically, you could do that now. It's just a matter of developing the panels. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Photoshop is very powerful for things like that. You know, there's a lot of ways that you guys can really get creative with this. And I think the community is going to really have a lot of fun with this. I want to stress that it can be used on anything. If it has a web browser, you can use this app. I will tell you right now that the gauges that you saw, I actually think I got a slightly better performance on my cell phone than I did on my $1,000 freaking tablet, iPad. So, although I guess the cell phones are just as expensive, aren't they? So that's something to be said. There's a lot coming. American Truck Simulator direct integration, you know, that's just coming in general. So we're going to be able to look at things like gauges, infotainment panels, maps, GPS, things like that. For Microsoft Flight Simulator, X-Plane, all that, we're going to be looking at things like G1000s, G500s, whatever it may be. There's so many things that we have coming. There's so many things I want to do with this. Buildable cockpit panels. I mean, we're really going to go crazy with this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be very, very capable. And I really hope that you guys are going to enjoy this. We have new icons that are in development for all of your buttons and stuff. So just stay tuned for that. That is not going to happen at the initial release. That's a whole nother bag of worms in itself. But we're definitely going to get new icons coming, and you have the ability to use any of your own if you have them. So I hope you guys are excited for this. I hope you liked this video. I know it was kind of a longer one, but you know, there's quite a bit to show, and I didn't even show you guys everything. I really didn't. So anyway, just keep in mind the first release is basically a beta of this. I wouldn't call it an alpha. I mean, it's gone through some pretty rigorous testing over the last few weeks, but certainly working, very functional, and I hope you guys are as proud of it as I am. As always, folks, stay safe and healthy, and I'll sure see you in the next one.